Alrighty, folks. You on?
Oh, I don't know.
Turn on.
Where's the switch?
Wow, y'all, Chuck, you've disciplined this crowd really well. What is that? All you got to do is open your mouth and they quiet down. Not like some places you go. You gotta go sleep. Well, actually, I know this is a challenge for many of us because Sunday afternoon, you go take a nap, you go watch a football game, or you do something, but we thank you that you're back with us. I will try to remember to look at everybody as best we can. So, should we put them together? I don't think they will. Nah, we'll let them stay where they are, I think. Unless y'all want to move together. Unless the people on the far back, y'all want to be a part of the group, y'all can come down forward if you want, but
Forward. Repent.
I will not judge you. I may call you to repentance, but I won't judge you for sure. It's good to be with you. We are going to have a time to share and interact. As we kind of go through this, we will do our best to stay within the time slots needed. I'm not giving a guarantee, but we'll do our best. Okay? Just to kick us back off, those who were in Bible class, and just a reminder, we're talking about a personality profile model, an intuitive model that works in our relationships and specifically in our marriage relationship. And so when we look at this model, what we're going to be looking through in that process is, what are those things that are of most of value to me? What is my perspective? How do I deal with communication? And a number of different things. And we have this idea, and remember our challenge is, as Christians, or as anybody, we want to live above that line. Remember, we do that imaginary line. And everything, these characteristics that we'll see above that line are positive. They're good qualities. They're things that we will use to better the family or the marriage or the relationships that we're in that process. But if we go below the line, we're turned those same qualities that are for good for evil. Okay? So we're going to kind of look at that process. One of the things that you might notice, as we go through some of this, you're going to see there's some variance and some sliding back and forth in some of the different areas. Okay? So you may see that part of your profile fits in this category, but part of your other part of the profile may fit in a different category. That's not uncommon. Okay? Typically what we've noticed that when you go below the line, when we go back into that self-protection mode, we have one that defines us. Okay? And we'll get through that. If you have a question along the way, feel free to raise your hand and ask, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. Okay? Any questions before we get started? Anything you want to say before we get started? This is Tay. This is my wife. What we are going to share with you today changed our marriage. And I think I mentioned that in Bible class. We went through a process. We struggled and fought over the same things over and over again. As you could tell from our skit, that was not a skit, that was actual real life lived back this morning. We had fought like that for years. But when somebody showed this to us and we were able to take it from that leadership model to family model or marriage model, it totally changed our lives. And I think we'll share that as we go on through that process. Okay?
So the idea is to get to know ourselves, to better understand ourselves, and to better understand our spouse, so that we can communicate in a way that they can hear us, and so that we can hear them when they communicate in the way that is most comfortable for them. Does that make sense?
And so that's we talked about this idea of this redeeming marriage, that we work on ourselves and God does the rest. Well, that's the same principle as what we're going to talk about. This is not for you to get ammunition to make your wife feel guilty for who she is. Okay? Or it's not ammunition for her to make me feel guilty for who I am. It's for me to understand who I am so that I can understand who she is, and then we can learn how to use those two different personality profiles to work together to create an environment, a positive environment in our lives. Okay? So here we are. We're going to start. They're not. Okay.
What?
They didn't come up it's supposed to come up one at a time, but they didn't. So the first personality profile is called a strategist. Okay? Not strategic thinker, but a strategist. And when we look at a strategist, and that person is a strategist in their relationships, what they're going to strive for in their relationships is this concept of freedom. Okay? They're going to assign this concept of where in these relationships, these rules and responses and challenges and tasks that are there, they're going to strive for those to be very clear and to be very much a part of who you are, and let me be myself, and I will ask you if I need any help in that. Okay? So what they're going to look at in their relationship, especially in their marriage, is they're going to look for this community, okay, that's very authentic. It's what you see is what you get. Okay? So if this is going on in our marriage, then that's what's going on. There's no hiding it because they're looking for that. Have any of you figured out what's wrong with this slide? How many of you quit listening to me the moment that slide came up?
And I knew it was there. Drives me nuts.
Why did they quit listening to me, babe?
Because there's error. Because there's something wrong and it needs to be fixed.
Okay?
Fredum. What is Fredum? Fredum's not even a thing.
Okay? So, just so you know, that's intentional. Okay? That is not a typo that reflects on my wife. It's intentionally put that way. Because as we look at that, this strategist, when they look at life, they're trying to figure out, is this good? Is this relationship good? Because a relationship that says Fredum is not good. So in that process, the strategist has a hard time because it's not clear. There's no accountability. The strategist has a hard time with that going up on the screen because somebody should have checked that. Okay?
I actually did. I deleted all your errors, and then when I realized it was intentional, I had to go put them all back.
Thank you, sister. I'm so glad you did that. Because you would have messed up my whole spiel this afternoon. Okay? Oh, so you read the notes and figured out it was intentional. Okay. Thank you. Okay?
We still disagree about how to open this seminar because it does lose some people.
But as a strategist, when you go into a relationship as a strategist, and we're using an example of spelling words, okay? It's a challenge. The strategist is looking at this relationship between a husband and wife be in this kind of situation that it is as good as it can get. There can't be anything that's not working right. There can't be anything in this growth of the relationship that shows anything of a lack of integrity, a lack of accountability. And when we do tasks together, the strategist wants to be given a task, or they're going to give a task or receive a task, whichever one that process. And they're going to want to be able to go do it and leave me alone. If I need help, I'll come back and ask.
Right.
Okay? That's what they want. Okay?
I mean, it's just the most efficient way to do things.
Okay? But, okay, so I know we've already got a couple strategists in this crowd. Never fails that they're the most vocal. Okay? But think about it. How does your marriage work? Now, I will say that Tay is a strategist. Now remember, all these characteristics are good. Is it good to look for clarity and accountability and for it to be good? Absolutely. Okay? Is it good to have that freedom? Absolutely. But not everybody is that way. Okay? You want to do the humanitarian? You want to?
And not if you weaponize it.
And not if you will, which we'll get to that, because that can become a very deadly, dangerous thing to your relationship. So there's just a picture of that, okay? The second characteristic, or the second profile, if it's going to work. Uh-oh, did we lose it? Do what?
You pushed the wrong button.
Push the wrong button. Forward.
All right, do you have it upside down?
No. No. I'm pushing the same button. Good. Okay. I don't know. When it goes, there it goes. Hey, it came up. Hey, and this one's coming up differently. Oh, so let me back up one. No, don't back up. Well, I'll tell you about it. If you were to describe a strategist, okay, in a practical example of something, the strategist, when that person comes into a room, they're going to flip on a light switch. Okay? They're going to want that everything is seen, clear, and noticeable. Okay? A humanitarian, when you come into a humanitarian, one of the challenges you have with humanitarians, for those of us who are not humanitarian, okay, but is they're all about compassion. They're all about this idea of having this comfortable community. So basically, that same example of the light switch, the humanitarian is going to worry about how cold it is in the auditorium and everybody who's freezing. And they're worried about that. And they're going to be worried about that because they want to know and they want to create this environment in their interaction that people feel good about this relationship. Okay? So they're going to be worried in this relationship, in this sharing in this relationship. They're going to want to make sure that there is this comfortableness between the two. Okay? Very different than what a strategist looks for in their relationships. Okay? They want to feel good. They want to make sure nobody's left out. In that process, they're going to want to make sure that this relationship and this challenge to doing things in the relationship is that everybody feels like they're being developed and they're being supportive in that process. A humanitarian will give someone a task, and they'll be right there to help them through it. Okay? Or the humanitarian will receive a task, and they're going to be like, where are the people that are helping me do this? Okay? Because they're looking for support. They're looking for working together in the sense that, okay, I'll do this, but be there with me in that process. Okay? And they're looking for this idea of togetherness. We're together in this process. We're going to work together. We're going to make this marriage grow. But in this marriage growing and everything, I'm not going to do it by myself. You've got to work with me in that. Okay? It's that idea of service, that idea of carrying on with that. So, what would happen if a strategist gives a humanitarian some task to do and just stops and lets go? What's going to happen to the humanitarian? They're going to feel a disconnect. They're going to feel unwanted and unloved because who are you to not help me do this?
And the strategists get paranoid because they're not doing it themselves.
Okay, the strategist maybe say, well, if I had to help you, I might as well do it myself.
Exactly.
Okay?
Humanitarian's going to say, where are my brothers and sisters?
Okay. So a humanitarian in their relationships, and if we're looking at the marriage relationship, but if you're looking at church, if you're looking at the church relationship, or people you're working with, the humanitarian wants to know, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it together? How are you going to support me in that process, in that going?
And the strategist is going to say, we've already talked about this.
Yeah. How many times do I have to tell you?
That's right. How much clearer can I be?
Okay. And so a humanitarian is all about how people feel as part of that community. Talk about a husband and wife. How does the humanitarian feel about the relationship? Do they feel supported? Do they feel a part of? Do they feel good about that relationship? Which is not something that the strategist is really concerned about. Do they want people to be cared for? Absolutely. But they do it differently. They do it differently. So you see how that makes a challenge?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir. You sure
Do you
may.
have aspects of both?
Yes, that was where we started the meeting. We can have aspects of both.
The way I filled this out is I have aspects of both already.
Okay, that was the challenge because that's why I told you you had to number them 1, 2, or 3. Because if you numbered them the same, you'd come out with the same results. Okay, but we do have one that's more natural to us. Okay, now we'll see this towards the end because we're going to bring in a spiritual application to this process. We'll see towards the end that we can grow in all of these areas. And we believe that you're asked to grow in all of these areas. But you do have one that's more natural to you. Okay? Now, wouldn't it be great if we were all humanitarians? Because we'd all be caring for one another and we'd all be loving and nobody would ever feel left out, but we're not all that way. Okay? What did he say?
He said, and nothing would ever get done.
Okay. We'd be sitting at home together, never going and getting stuff done because we're just all about being all lovey-dovey.
We'd be feeling great accomplishing something.
Okay. Is there anything wrong with focusing on compassion, comfortableness, development, and supporting people? No. Okay? It's your way of naturally responding. Okay? The third one. The third one's a diplomat. And she calls him a diplomat, which is a good term for that. But when they approach their relationships, they approach them from a very different look and perspective. They're going to approach their relationships from this concept of beauty. Okay? This concept of color. They're going to approach their relationships looking for peace. Okay? They're going to want peace to reign in that relationship. They're going to want this community or this relation, this husband and wife relationship, to be all about, is it impressive or not? Are we making an impact in those around us? Are we making an impact in our relationship? If people were to see our relationship, they'd go, wow. What's wrong with this slide? It's awful, did I hear somebody say? It's awful. Why is it awful? It's crooked. Why is that a problem? Does anybody have a problem with this slide being crooked?
I fixed this one too before I realized this was awful.
Okay, sister, we know who you are in this group really quick. Okay? Okay. So
Confession
once again, done intentionally. So don't judge those who didn't fix the mistakes. But when they're looking at relationships, they're looking at building this solid marriage relationship, the diplomat wants the community, the relationship, to have an impact in their lives and the lives of people around them. Okay? And they want this relationship to look good. They want this relationship to really look good.
And they have perfect lives on Facebook.
They do. Okay? Everything's perfect. Everything's good. Everything's quality. But sometimes this character, I say sometimes, a lot of you look at this characteristic as deceitful and untrue. But what they're looking for in those relationships, that it be as impressive as it can possibly be. Okay? They're looking for the relationship to have this sense of harmony, this sense of order, that as we grow in our relationship with one another, it's not about us as much as it's about how we come across to others. Okay? It's how kind of impression we make on those around us. Okay? And the author of the book, she describes a friend of hers who's an architect, that's a diplomat in their architecture, and she says she built an auditorium for a church that would seat over, I think it's about 1,500 people, is what the article said. But if there's only 100 people, 150, 200 people there, it still looks full, even though it's a really large auditorium. Because she was able to work with colors and seat patterns, and the way it was presented, that even if you're speaking to 150 people, that 1,000-person auditorium still looks full. That's pretty impressive, okay? But the diplomat is going to want unity. They're going to want to make sure that we're all striving towards the same goal, okay? And we're all working on that same goal together, okay? So we've got three different personalities. Three different personalities that all have good characteristics, that all have good qualities. And don't worry, I'll straighten this up in just a minute. Okay? Because it's important. It's important in dealing with that. It's important in understanding, because what happens, I'm a diplomat, okay? What happens when I'm worried about how our relationship looks to the people outside? Now, I want a good relationship. I want a great relationship. I want a relationship that's impactful. But when I'm looking to see how impactful it is, I'm looking sometimes from an outward perspective inward. Okay? And it makes a difference of how you look at your relationship. Okay? Any questions? Any comments? So they're looking for that beauty. Yes? We will get there. We will get there. Okay?
Okay, but if we have a good relationship person to person, won't that have others perceive how that we're impressive?
In the eyes of a diplomat, yes. In the eyes of a strategist?
In the eyes of a strategist, if it is good, if it is truly good, then we're good. Yes, it's going to be impactful and it's going to be impressive to the community. What strategists are more concerned about is it good? Whereas the diplomat is more concerned about how impressive is it. So if it's not exactly great and it's still impressive, they're okay with that. Whereas a strategist is not okay with that, because then we're not being authentic, we're not holding to truth. And that's what the strategist holds so dear, right? Truth is what we hold dear. Now the humanitarian holds goodness as opposed to truth. They're different, right? Truth and goodness are different. Both qualities of God. And beauty, for the diplomat, also a quality of God. And that is what the diplomat holds most dear, right? And so when these things come into conflict, when I hold truth above everything else, and he holds unity above everything else, that's where the conflict comes in, right?
He wants ducks in a row, but he was given squirrels.
Okay.
All right. So how does this work?
This
All right. Baby, look what I found. I found the perfect mug for you. I know how much you like Arkansas. And look, it's got Arkansas on it.
What are you talking about? It's just a plain blue cup.
No.
I mean, I could get this at any gas station all over the country. It's just a blue cup.
Baby, no. Arkansas, established in 1836. I saw it and I thought of you.
Do you not know me?
You didn't give the time.
What?
Do you not know that I'm really not an Arkansas fan?
Baby, it's perfect for you.
It's just a cup.
It's not
Okay.
just a cup.
Okay, whatever. I'll keep it.
Well, now you're just saying I'm stupid.
Well, I mean, to me, it's just a cup. It doesn't have anything to do with Arkansas. It doesn't have anything to do with the things I love.
It
and
is
you give me just a plain
as-
cup.
It is plain as day. It says Arkansas.
You're lying to me, girl, because it does not say that at all.
So now you're calling me a liar.
Well, the shoe fits.
What?
Because look, you are all my witnesses. It says nothing, right?
All right.
What happens when these personalities go into conflict? We deal with conflict very differently. And so in this small conflict, once again, not an act, it's relived memories, okay?
So this represents any event, good, bad, or indifferent, anything that's happened in your lives, and you come to it from a different perspective, right? You describe what you're seeing, and the other person's going, no, that is not how that happened. No, that is not what was said. And then we get our feelings hurt because we feel like we're being called a liar. Well, if I'm a liar, then you're a monkey's uncle or whatever. You know, it escalates. And then before you know it, we're fighting over stupid stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Stupid stuff.
But in the moment, it doesn't seem trivial. It doesn't seem stupid because I want, as a diplomat, for her to know me because we're a couple together. And I want this thing that she gives me to be this impressive, crazy, wonderful thing. And to me, it just appears that it's just a cup. But she wants something different because she did think of me. And she was attentive to the details on it that I, when given to me, I don't have the clue how to turn it around and see the other side. Okay? Okay? That's where conflict makes a difference. So when we look at conflict between these two people, the way we approach conflict is very, very different. Being a strategist and being a diplomat, we approach conflict in a very different way because when we talk about a strategist in conflict, they come across with a very straightforward message. It's very straightforward in what they're about and what they're doing. If you were to describe
This is what's wrong, let's fix it.
by action a conflict with a strategist, it looks like this.
Does that hurt? I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to hurt you.
A little too aggressive. No. But it's straightforward. She's going to come with the message, and she's going to direct it towards me, and I'm going to see this thing coming.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to see it coming because in that straightforward message, it's coming confrontationally to fix this problem. Okay? And there's no doubt, well, in her mind, there is doubt in my mind as to why she's dealing with that. Okay? When we first married, we were still at Sunset, I'd come home and I would put my key in the door. Okay? Open the door, and guess who's on the other side ready to deal with conflict? And I would take my backpack and walk into the office. I'd set my backpack down and turn around, and she's still after me on this conflict. I would go into the kitchen to get a drink of water, and guess what? She's still dealing with this conflict. As a diplomat, that has a very adverse reaction than what she's looking for in solution to conflict. Because all it did for me was to just go and shut down into my life, which did to her
What?
more conflict.
How can we not
Okay?
fix this?
So her effect of what she wanted to achieve in the conflict, because I'm a diplomat and look at conflict very differently, that straightforward, that confrontational message to me was an attack upon me.
Exactly.
And I wasn't dealing with it. I wasn't going to have it. So I shut down, and I would go 3 or 4 days and not speak to her.
Not a word. Not good morning, not good night, nada. Zippo.
Okay.
Zero.
She was trying to deal with a conflict and get it fixed. In that process, when she comes to deal with that conflict, when she comes into that conflict, she's trying to be analytical and discerning about what's going on, and she's trying to do everything she can to fix it. Okay?
Amen, brother.
She wants it
fix it. We
fixed.
wanna fix
She wants it fixed because if she doesn't fix it, there's something wrong in the relationship.
And it's not good.
It's not good.
Authentic. I'm not being true to truth, right? And I can't help being spirited.
And she's very spirited about that. Okay? She's going to get excited about it. She's going to be verbal about it. She's going to grow and it's just getting bigger and bigger because we're not fixing this issue. And the more we don't fix this issue, the bigger it gets and the bigger it gets and the bigger it gets until all of a sudden, she goes from a category 1 to a category 5 hurricane. But the beauty of it is that she's really looking for correction of the problem.
Not necessarily of him, just let's
It can be anything.
talk about this.
It can be a problem if we're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do with this cup? She's going to approach it that way. If it's a conflict of us and how we're dealing with it, she's going to approach it that way. If it's a conflict we're dealing with one of our children, she's going to deal with it that way. If it's a conflict with somebody at church, she's definitely going to deal with it that way because that's who we are. That's the personality. Because she's striving for the straightforward message. She wants to tell you exactly what it means, how you're going to deal with it, and we're going to fix this. Because we cannot, as strategists, move forward until that problem is solved. Okay? Because what happens if the conflict is not resolved?
I can't continue. I can't function because
Become fixated on the problem not being solved.
right. It has to be solved for me to feel, for me to believe that we are good.
So,
right? Because that's what I'm searching for is for this to be good.
If that conflict is there, it's as though we're trying to build a relationship with a chair standing between us. It's hard.
I can't get any closer.
She can't get any closer. So in her wanting to get close, she's trying to connect, she's trying to build that relationship, she's trying to grow that relationship, but there's something in the way. She can't figure out a way over it. You can figure out a way over it, but we'll get there in a minute. Okay? Yes, sir.
If two people are going to have a conversation, whether it's arguing or whatever, if they have a problem, why can't they sit down and talk about it peacefully instead of screaming and yelling and all these other things and all this?
Well, so that,
I don't understand that.
Because diplomats just don't get it.
Thank you, sister. We just don't get it.
no.
Because I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Now, I will say, just because I am passionate, just because I am spirited, when I'm presenting my idea, I come across as this is the way it's got to be. And that's not necessarily the case. I'm just very passionate about it and excited about the way I'm presenting this. That doesn't mean I'm not open to other ideas. The problem is it shuts him down already, and he doesn't have the space or the capacity to even think of another idea.
Okay.
Because I haven't given him that room.
Okay. So here we are. These are good quality. We're still above the line. This
We're still above the line.
assertiveness,
Just remember
this
that.
fixing the problem
Still all
is
good.
still a good quality. Okay? It's still a good quality that we need to have, except it doesn't work for me, but it does work for her. But what she's looking for, if she's above the line, now we'll talk about below the line. What we're looking for in that situation, if she's above the line, she's looking to correct, she's looking to analyze, she's looking to get it, make it better, and get it working the right way. Okay?
I'm looking for a good, authentic
Relationship.
community or relationship.
Okay? So much so is if the conflict is not dealt with, there's no authenticity or integrity in the relationship. Okay? So she can't move on.
And in come the sleepless nights and the can't have a conversation about anything else because this isn't fixed.
Okay. But a humanitarian, it's a whole nother game to them. It's a whole nother ballpark to them. Because a humanitarian, when dealing with conflict, it's not about the straightforward message. It's about a message that comes across with the least amount of pain. Here's how it looks.
Oh, baby, I have something to tell you, and I know you're not going to like it, but baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to. I don't want to hurt you, but I've got to tell you.
Got to deal with it.
Oh.
That's the way a humanitarian deals with conflict. They're going to want to make sure that their approach to this conflict is in such a way that it hurts the least possible. Okay? One of the, as you deal with humanitarians, a challenge they have, and challenge you others have with dealing with conflict with them, is they have this thing called forbearance or forbearing.
Remember the would you rather during Bible class. Would you rather stay quiet to not hurt someone's feelings, or would you rather tell the truth, even though you know it's going to hurt? That's the difference between the humanitarian and the strategist.
But as the forbearance issue goes, and the wanting to hold your tongue to be able to deal for the better of the relationship, to a humanitarian is basically, I love you enough and you love me enough that just because you did it once is not a problem. Okay? And when they look at that and they deal with that in these issues, they're going to be looking at this problem from a perspective that they're very patient and very kind, and they're looking at this and they're very loyal to this person. They're not going to do anything that they would try to conflict with that person until this problem has gotten so big that they don't have another choice. But they're not doing it as avoidance of conflict. They're doing it because they're putting the relationship above the issue. Does that make sense? So when they go into that process and they're going to deal with it, it's a very gentle process of conflict. Go ahead.
And as a strategist, I don't understand that he's just told me, hey, this needs to be fixed. Because it wasn't a direct message, right? It was around the, you painted this whole big picture, and I got lost in the picture and in the details because there wasn't a straightforward message. And so I do it again, and again, and again, and again. And so then when the humanitarian finally gets up the courage to give the direct message, the strategist is taken by surprise because they're like, why didn't you tell me this 6 months ago? Why didn't you tell me the first time I did it? And then it wouldn't be a problem because we would have nipped it in the bud.
Okay. We had a couple that we did this with that are students at the school, and they were talking about, they'd been married a few years, and they talked about those first years of marriage. And she's a humanitarian and he's a strategist. And he would cook sometimes. And in his cooking, in even her words, his cooking was not real good. Okay? But she would sit down at the table, she would eat the meal, and she would be happy and excited that he tried to cook. And so guess what he'd do the next time? He'd cook again because it was something that his wife enjoyed. And she would be the same way. I'm going to eat this, but it's really not that great. And after a number of times of having to eat meals that weren't that good, she finally decides to tell her husband, you're not a good cook. His reaction was, if you loved me enough, you would have told me that the first time. But as a humanitarian, she couldn't do that because she wanted to forbear that issue. See the difference?
Because she says, because I loved you enough, I did not tell you the first time.
Okay? See how that conflict creates an issue there? Because we don't know how to deal with each other. I about fell over. We don't know how to deal with each other in that process. And because she's a strategist and I am a diplomat, but using a humanitarian, if she's going through this process or I'm going through this process and I'm forbearing and forbearing and forbearing, to me that might be love. To a strategist, that's like, oh, wait a minute, you didn't love me enough because you didn't tell me on the first time.
You weren't honest with me.
You weren't honest with me. You weren't transparent. You weren't integral in that process. And the humanitarian's going, but you're not compassionate enough. You don't worry about my feelings in that process. And so we fight and we argue and we get challenged on these issues because we don't understand what the other person needs and who I am. Okay? Diplomats. We got 20 minutes to get below the line. I'll make it. Diplomats. Okay? A diplomat is a different type person. Okay? The strategist wants that straightforward, confrontational message. The humanitarian wants the wise approach, which is soft, but it's forbearing of the issue. A diplomat functions very differently.
Right.
Okay? And it would look something like this.
Hey, Hey,
baby.
how's it going?
Good to see you. Okay? They're very non-confrontational.
You
They
know
don't
not-
like conflict. They don't like the way it looks. They don't like the conflict they're dealing with, because the conflict is a blemish to a perfect relationship.
Exactly.
Okay? But they need what is called wise timing. Okay? Remember, I'd come home from work and I'd put the key in the door and she's right there? That is not wise timing for a diplomat. That is what would you call it? An ambush in the diplomat's eyes. Okay? But I need, as a diplomat, that this approach or this conflict that we're going to deal with is at an appropriate time for me to be able to deal with it. Because that's a diplomatic approach to conflict. Do what? Not as you're trying to go to sleep. Not as you're walking in the building at the church building.
But see, a strategist can't get to sleep.
Okay?
If there's
No-
conflict.
Okay?
you know?
Not
So-
for a diplomat, finding that appropriate time. Do not ambush me in the grocery store. Do not ambush me when I first get home. Do not just jump to this conflict without giving me a heads up.
And definitely never, ever, ever, ever in public.
Never in public.
Never when there's someone else who can witness the disharmony or the
Disharmony.
disunity between you.
Because what will happen in that disharmony, in that process, the diplomat will shut down and just ignore you. Okay? And so when they deal with conflict, they have to give a timing and an issue and a challenge to that. And they have to be able to finesse this argument and look at it to make sure that it's going in the right direction. They have to be polished and refined, and they have to give you all these stories and all this look at it and how it must come across. And they're just going and they're making this really neat conflict.
Tying it
But
up
one
with
of
a
the
bow.
biggest things that diplomats will not do is lose their control. They will not lose control in a situation, or they'll try not to lose control of the situation. Okay? Now, what happens when you have a spirited strategist talking and conflict resolution needs to happen between a non-confrontational, calm diplomat?
You don't get anywhere. I'll just let you know from
Okay.
experience.
Yes, sir.
You don't get anywhere.
I had a question on that word confidence. You said will not lose control. What about just give it in?
Okay. We'll get there because we're going to look at these characteristics, but we're going to go below the line and look at them from below the line perspective. Okay? But we'll get there. Okay? So dealing with conflict, and dealing with an issue, the diplomat needs to have that timing. They need to be able to step back and evaluate, get their thoughts together before dealing with the issue. What did you learn to do in our relationship?
I learned that instead of meeting him at the door with whatever it was, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be conflict, just, hey, here's a problem. What can we do with it?
Or how are we going to raise
Right.
the kids on this? Or
Right.
what's
Right.
the, yeah,
What
it
are we
could
gonna
be,
do
it doesn't
about
have to be
this?
even between
It
us.
could be anything. I would give him a call before he got home and say, hey, we need to talk about this. When's a good time for you? Because any time's a good time for me, right?
At the drop of a hat, she'll deal with that issue. But the diplomat doesn't like that. And so in that process, she would ask, when is a good time? Wise timing to deal with an issue with a diplomat.
Because I realized I wasn't getting anywhere with chasing him around the room. He just got quieter and quieter and quieter. He would be silent for 3 days, not a word. And then all of a sudden, day 4 or 5, he'd wake up, good morning, dear. Hey, baby. I'm like, excuse you? You haven't been here for the last 3 days. Why are you talking to me now? What happened? He would resolve it in his mind because he needed that time and that space to do that. But then he wouldn't revisit it and let me in on, so he's all resolved. I'm not resolved because we have not gone through this process together.
So the way that works together in our relationship, and we have 2 kids that are diplomats, two that are humanitarian, one child that's a strategist, one child that's a diplomat, and then we've got a diplomat and a strategist in our family. So we got all of them, okay? But what we learn in that process and how this worked in conflict or even discussing different issues, she calls me or she lets me know, hey, when can we deal with this? Whether that's what we're going to do with the kids over Christmas break, or whether it's where we're going to go for vacation, or whether it's really a conflict. And she would say, when can we deal with this? I take a moment, I look at my schedule, and I'm like, babe, I'm going to be in Colorado, then I've got a funeral, and then I'm going to be in Arkansas. How about we talk about it when I get back from my For her, that was extremely difficult.
Can I just tell you how much I've grown?
Okay?
Because I can now wait 3 weeks.
Okay. But the reason she can wait 3 weeks is because if I gave her the time when we were going to talk about that, who had to bring it back up? I did.
He did.
Because if I don't bring it back up, then she doesn't have the confidence that we'll deal with the issue. And so she's not able to let those issues go for a period of time till we can have the right timing. Okay? So I had to be the one, okay, it's 3 weeks. I've got to be the one to bring that back to the topic that we're dealing with. We get some resolution or we get some resolve on that, and then we can move on. So she grew in that process. I grew in the process of once it came up, or once it was time to deal with it, that we dealt with it. I've also in that process, as she's learned to take the space, I've learned sometimes you got to suck it up and deal with it when you don't want to deal with it. So what do we do now? She calls, it depends on the issue, but she calls and says, hey, can we talk about this? I'll be like, I'll be home in a couple of minutes or 5 minutes, we'll deal with it. And so what do? I become more strategic or more strategist in dealing with conflict because I know that's what she needs. Because if it were what I needed, we'd never talk about it. Okay? We'd never talk about it.
Exactly.
Because that's the way we deal with conflict. So going back to this process of being redemptive in nature, process of growing in this process, we learn who we are, we learn who our spouse is, and how are we going to bring those two together to make that happen. Okay? Anything else you want to say? So here's the whole sheets. Here's what it looks like. And I have a couple of these sheets at the back. You can get all this information. I'll have it printed out, ready for you to go, and you can do that. But you've got characteristics. Remember, all of these are above the line. Is there a time in a relationship to wait for the right time to deal with an issue? Absolutely. Is there a time in a relationship to work with it and to where you want to come up with the wisest approach? Absolutely. Is there a time to deal with it confrontationally? Absolutely. So we have to learn how to function between those three. You want to tell them about painting? You want me to? Painting the house in Chile?
You
I
tell
do this
them I'll
one.
interject when
Okay.
I need to.
She'll correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's not what I said.
Show you how this works. 3 personality types or 3 personality profiles. They function differently in the way they work. Okay? The strategist wants to do it, get the job done, analytically get it done. The humanitarian wants help. The humanitarian wants to be a part of that. The diplomat wants this unity and process. When we were in Chile, we had to paint the house. We were moving. We rented the house, so we were going to move somewhere else. Before we could move, we had to paint the old house. Well, the strategist in the family said, and our kids were little, so it's really between Tay and I more than anybody, but the strategist in the family said, give me a paintbrush, give me a bucket of paint, and let me have a room and I'll paint it. You go paint a different room, and you go paint a different room, and you go paint a different room, and we'll paint 4 rooms at once.
It would be done like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The humanitarian's like, no, that doesn't work that way. I will be happy to help you paint, but make sure that you're supporting me in this process so you're right there with me and my paint bucket doesn't run dry. And the diplomat's like, why would we go to different rooms if we all work on one room, we get it done, then we'll move to the next room and get it done, and then we'll move to the next room and get it done.
Exactly.
Okay? It's amazing what kind of tension you can get in your family trying to paint a house. Okay? Now, how do you deal with that? How do you learn to deal with that? Because our daughter is a humanitarian, and she's more than happy to help paint, but don't leave her alone to paint because she just can't do it by herself. And so Dad's helping her keep paint, helping her get, the masking tape on and so she's painting and she's doing a great job and she's a great painter. But you got to support her in the process. Now, the strategist, we have Tay, who's a good painter, and our son, who's not such a good painter, but he's very helpful in that sense. He takes his bucket and he goes in there and paints a room, and it's covered with paint. It's not a good paint job, but it's done. Okay? It's painted, but
You're welcome.
The streaks go this way, the streaks go this way, and they go that way. And guess what? Dad has to go back and paint it again anyway. But Dad's in there because he's helping one of the daughters. He's going to have to repaint. Dad's like, let's just do this room and get this room done. And when we're all done with this room, we'll move to the next one. Because he wants that unity and harmony. So, you deal with it on a day-to-day basis. How do you do that? How do you deal with that in that process? Any questions? All characteristics above the line. Okay? Any comments? Whew, now I'm hot. Okay? But that's the personalities. Those are good profiles. Those are good, important things. They're good qualities to have in a family. They're good qualities to have in a marriage. You just got to learn how to work with each other in that. Okay? Now, we're challenged by the fact that we're not always above the line.
I'm going to say,
Yes.
these characteristics are good when they are put to the service of others, right? When we use them in view of or in light of or for the good of our community or our relationship, right? But these exact same qualities, when we turn them inward and start protecting self, then they fall below the line and become sinful.
Okay. Shall we take a break or stop halfway through?
It's up to you.
Are we ready for the break? I see water coming in. Y'all ready for a 10-minute break? Okay. Hop up. We'll come back and talk about below the line when we get back and see. And yeah, there's cookies out back. There's water out back. We'll see the dark side when we come back.
Cookies.
That's the magic word.
That's right. Wake you up. That'll wake you up.
I let him know. It's time to take a break.